Welcome back to our war games that we are playing, this post-poll deep dive into what are the likely scenarios, what could happen on the 23rd when, remember, Maharashtra and Jharkhand give us the results, the final big battles of this big election year of 2024. Now, we've done some kind of simulation already for Maharashtra. What we've suggested, possibilities of the Mahayuti getting a majority seem higher at the moment than that of the Mahavikas Aghadi. We are not ruling out the possibility of a hung assembly in Maharashtra, but advantage Mahayuti when you look at the different poll permutations and combinations. Now let's turn, Rahul, to the state of Jharkhand, which, remember, has gone through two phases. The second phase of polling ended today.
So what we'll do in Jharkhand is we'll run three scenarios, and then I'll take you through the C-voter data for Jharkhand. Remember, I want to clarify once again that this is not an NDA poll. This is a poll done by C-voter. We'll show you the results of the C-voter poll. So I'll start with running three simulations on what could happen. So scenario number one is where the BJP gets an absolute majority as part of an enlarged NDA. And remember, this time you've got the All Jharkhand Students' Union, which fought separately last time round, fighting alongside the BJP, as is the JDU, the Lok Janshakti Party of Chirag Paswan, if they fight together and cross the magic figure of 41. Remember, the 81 seats in the Jharkhand Assembly. This would suggest that there would be high anti-incumbency against the Hemant Soren government, and the idea of the NDA expanding its alliance would prevent any split in the vote that they were hoping to get. Remember, one of the reasons that the Raghubar Das government got voted out last time was because the anti-BJP vote consolidated and the pro-BJP vote got split, with the AJSU picking away some of what could have been the NDA vote. In this scenario, because they're contesting together, they have a stronger chance of actually being able to cross the finishing line. From here, this would also suggest that factors like infiltration, corruption have worked in favor of the NDA. The BJP has taken these up in a very big way. Ghuspetia, all the charges against Hemant Soren have been made front and center of this BJP campaign. And Champai Soren, the tiger of Kolan, coming into the BJP fold would mean that in this region, where the BJP did quite badly last time round, that his presence has been able to solidify the NDA's chances there. Now, let's... one of the other reasons for this typically could be that MLAs in a state like Jharkhand since 2000 have usually struggled to hold on to their seats. And therefore, there's been a lot of anti-incumbency against sitting MLAs. Congress rebels who have been contesting against the official candidates could potentially damage the party's candidates on more than half a dozen seats. These are some of the reasons why, in scenario one, there could be an absolute majority for the NDA. And if this happens, let's now try and convert this into numbers. So we worked with Amitabh Tiwari, who's with us in the studio on this. This is the 2019 base file, where you've got 30 seats for the NDA, 49 for the India Alliance. Remember, some of these parties fought separately, but to be able to compare, we brought them together under the NDA. Here, if the BJP's vote share goes up by 5%, the India Alliance vote share goes down by 5%, then the NDA is comfortably placed at 51, the India Alliance comes down just to 29, and this would mean game, set and match for the NDA in Jharkhand if this scenario actually comes through. From here, let's now go to the second scenario. This is a scenario where there's some sympathy against in favor of Hemant Soren because he was incarcerated, and this tribal consolidation. So if this happens, you've got a scenario where the JMM, the Jharkhand Mukti Morcha, the Congress, the Rashtriya Janata Dal, the left together are able to cross that magic figure of 41, which would require a strong tribal consolidation in favor of the JMM. And remember, the BJP is trying very hard to prevent a strong tribal consolidation, but this would be required. This also means that a lot of the schemes that have been introduced by the Hemant Soren government as part of its welfare agenda would have clicked on polling day. And remember, the equivalent of the Ladki Behan Yojana is, even though the allocation is less, as just 1,000 rupees, has been one of the big poll promises that they've executed. It's called the Maya Yojana, which currently disperses 1,000 rupees to 45 lakh women, could potentially be a game changer. And even in the polling data that I saw from Jharkhand, this was the one scheme that was registering and tracking the highest. We'll spend some time talking about that. The India Alliance has now in fact promised to increase the allocation for this scheme from 1,000 to 2,500. So if this comes through, this would really be one of the big factors propelling the India Alliance to victory. This would also require that there be sympathy for Hemant Soren, who now started looking a bit like his father, Shibu Soren, or a younger version of his father, clicking, and that's an image that has a high recall, especially amongst tribal voters in Santal Paragana, and that works well. He's also promised to waive electricity bills. So this is the second scenario that we model, which is a scenario where the Congress, RJD, JMM are able to buck anti-incumbency, which is tough in a state like Jharkhand, and come back to power. Let's now come to the third scenario. This is a scenario which envisages the potential of a hung assembly, where both the JMM and the BJP are close to 30 seats each. Other constituents of the NDA and the India Alliance are around 20. So nobody hits that 50 mark. Taken together, the others are at 20. So you got nobody at 40 plus. In this case, the tribal vote gets split between the India Alliance and the NDA, and there isn't a clear consolidation in any one favor. The BJP and the JMM emerge as the two key poles, but the others, whether it's the AJSU, the JMM, the Congress, the RJD, they underperform. And therefore, they don't really give that much support to the key pillars in this alliance. You also got a new party like the JLKM amongst the Kurmis attempting to emerge as a King Mehto Mato's party, and that could do well. If the India Alliance does well in Jharkhand, that would require the All Jharkhand Students Union, which has an emotional connect, particularly with the youth of Jharkhand, which fails to do well for the NDA. They need this batsman to strike and strike hard. The Congress proves weak in the India Alliance if they're not able to cross the 41 figure. Remember last time you had RPN Singh running the Congress's campaign in Jharkhand. This time round, has it been quite as strong? Well, that's something that we'll debate in just a moment. And now if we were to convert this third scenario into numbers, which is basically BJP plus going down by 5%, India Alliance going down by 5%, and others going up by 10%. If this were to happen, then you've got again a complete khichdi scenario where you've got NDA at 23, you've got the India Alliance at 35, others at 23, which would suggest that the India Alliance has arguably the better shot in this kind of a scenario to be able to form the next government. But Sanjay Kumar now joins us. In Jharkhand, typically anti-incumbency is strong against the state government and against sitting MLAs. And you've got this time a consolidated, expanded NDA, AJSU, LJP, JDU, along with the BJP, whereas last time they thought हम अकेले ही कर देंगे सब कुछ.
You mentioned two factors. Yes, BJP is more united this time compared to 2019. But I don't get a sense that there is a very strong anti-incumbency against the ruling JMM Congress government. Yes, there are some unhappiness, but I don't get a sense that there is a very strong anti-incumbency. If that's the case, the two factors goes together side by side, then that would mean a rout for JMM, which I don't see happening. Yes, it's a tight contest. I see JMM trailing behind the NDA alliance, but I think it is a much tighter election compared to what many would have expected.
You know, Jharkhand becomes like Chhattisgarh. These small states can be nightmares. We just saw what happened in Haryana, how the polls went badly wrong. Even a percentage there. You see, in Maharashtra, you could hope as a pollster, you get some region of Maharashtra wrong, you will equalize it in another. It's a large state. There's another reason why Maharashtra is a nightmare, because it's 6 states in one. And therefore, any pollster who tells me, vote share of Maharashtra, I'm not going to go by vote share. It's going to need more than vote share to convince me what's happening in Maharashtra. It's seat by seat. In Jharkhand, I think that tribal, non-tribal divide, the Congress has to pull its weight. For any chance for the JMM to have to form a government, the Congress has to pull in weight. You ask JMM sources, they say Congress asked for too many seats. And we should have probably given them a few less than what they got. Just as the Congress feels Shiv Sena got more seats than they should have really got in Maharashtra. My sense is this is an election not just of Hemant Soren but his wife.
Yeah.
The most remarkable, one of the stories of this election, just as Zarange Patil is this phenomenon in Maharashtra, is Kalpana Soren.
True.
I mean, anyone you talk to in Jharkhand says she is campaigner number one. And the woman factor. The one thing uniting Maharashtra and Jharkhand is both those governments have gone on and aggressively wooed the woman voter. If Hemant Soren has even half a chance in Jharkhand after 5 years of palpable anti-incumbency, it's only because of that. But the BJP has put a lot of effort, and the BJP has tried to divide Jharkhand on religious lines.
And if there was a sympathy factor, they would have milked it during Lok Sabha. The JMM only got 3 seats of the 14 in Lok Sabha. And he did go to jail before Lok Sabha. So yes, number one, there is Kalpana Soren who's come into the picture. She's the star campaigner. Number two, their direct cash transfer is making impact. And Jharkhand is a state, especially in the Adivasi belt, where if you give the money directly to women, it is making an impact.
No, but the question is, the BJP both in Jharkhand very overtly and to some extent even in Maharashtra eventually played Hindu-Muslim politics.
Does
it work?
You know, does it work more in Jharkhand than it does in Maharashtra?
Did it antagonize the Adivasi vote, Sheila?
No, first of all, in Jharkhand, I think one of the main thing we will observe is that CBI ED related cases, whether when BJP puts series of politicians inside the jail, whether it affects their own respective.
No, but in Chhattisgarh it worked.
It worked, but I'm just saying that is also a test. That is also under test, under watch. That's whether whether Chief Minister Soren is he facing it anti-incumbency or not. But I think he has got sympathy. He has managed to retain his popularity, if not in the same extent, but still he is in the reckoning. And as Radip said, his wife is also supporting. So I think that is also a factor, that this interconnection of not working, corruption cases are not working with in the actual real.
Does polarization work, Sanjay Kumar, Amitabh Tiwari, both in Maharashtra and in Jharkhand, or does it work differently in different states?
See, polarization works in states where the Muslim population is more than the country average. So states like West Bengal, Assam, UP, Bihar.
Or in constituencies where it's more.
Yeah, and even in Jharkhand, because in Jharkhand the population is almost equal to national average. In Maharashtra, only 2 regions, Mumbai and Marathwada, have a high Muslim population of more than 15%. In Jharkhand, what is happening is that this batenge katenge thing is working in areas where the Adivasi population is lesser, which means the North Chota Nagpur. The North Chota Nagpur Congress did well, because that consists of mostly the Biharis or the outsiders. So it may not be working significantly well in Santhal Pargana because there is a tribal asmita attached, and there is this Maya Samman Yojana. We've seen 5% higher turnout of women in phase 1 compared to men. But in other regions it is working.
No, but
Sanjay Kumar, your view?
Yeah, I more or less agree with what Amitabh ji has mentioned. If you look at the Muslim population in Jharkhand, there are pockets, and being concentrated in few constituencies or few districts, that makes a difference. This is the first time we are looking at a campaign in Jharkhand which is so aggressively Hindu-Muslim, and that seems to have worked in favor of BJP, at least from the campaign, during the campaign. That is what my observation during the campaign, that it seems to be working in favor. And also we should not forget that all those people who seem to be buying this argument or buying this or get attracted to it, this slogan, are also somewhat anti-tribal. In a sense, they don't like mingling with the tribal. So they also have this anti-tribal approach. So there seems to be a divide. If you look at tribal votes, would certainly go in favor of the JMM. But non-tribal consolidation seems to have worked well in favor of BJP.
Okay.
Also, just one important thing, that in Jharkhand, it never became a big headline, but the tribals' demand for their own religion, recognition for own religion is also there, and which BJP would never like it.
And the same thing is transcended into Maharashtra, Rajdeep, because you talk about North Maharashtra. I've been extensively in the Gadchiroli belt, Chandrapur belt, which has a very high tribal population. I went to Jalgaon, which has a very high tribal population. And there seems to be this entire polarizing narrative didn't quite cut it with the tribals. They were very angry on other issues as well. But it did backfire in these areas as well, where the tribal population was concerned.
But it was a well-calculated move of BJP to raise this entire Hindu-Muslim issue in Jharkhand because of many small reasons.
Yeah, and also I think what they saw in Maharashtra in Lok Sabha is that they felt at least that the Dalit Muslim consolidation was so strong, they needed a counter to that. They needed to create a counter narrative. Eknath Shinde created Ladki Bahin as his narrative. The BJP created this sense of Hindutva consolidation. And the moment you go to a city, things change, or a small town. You go to Ahmednagar. I started the debate by saying, okay, we are here in Ahmednagar. Immediately the crowd shouted me down. No, we are Ahilya Nagar. Don't call it Ahmednagar. Now,
But
I
Rajdeep,
don't
did you
think,
see
I'm
this
not
resound?
sure people would have told me that 20 years ago.
But my question is, did you see this resound other than the urban belt?
So that's why, you see,
Did it find traction outside the urban
you see,
pockets?
that's why in Maharashtra I'm saying either Ladki Bahin has spread right across Maharashtra and therefore propels the NDA to a big victory. The moment it is seat by seat, you will find rural, semi-rural voting very differently to urban and semi-urban. Even within Maharashtra, there's a constituency, for example, Bandra East, where Zishan Siddiqui, the son of the late Baba Siddiqui, is contesting. He's against Varun Sardesai as his main contender, no relative of Shiv Sena UBT. Till last week, everyone was telling me Zishan is in a strong position. The moment Batenge to Katenge came, Zishan has been pushed on the back foot. Because now you're seeing, and there are lots of such constituencies across Maharashtra. So the BJP has taken a risk, it's a calculated risk, but it can also backfire at times in a state which is seat by seat. In a state like Jharkhand, it's perhaps easier for you to push that narrative. In Maharashtra, what happened as a result is that it gave the MVA the opportunity to go back to their Dalit voter and say, look, these guys are, once again playing Hindutva politics. They try to consolidate Ambedkarites again. So it's a very, very complex issue. To what extent can polarization work state by state?
And it is one of the few states, on a national level, the Adivasi support for BJP increased in 2024. But Maharashtra is one of the few states where the Adivasi support declined. This Dhangar versus ST, because of the inclusion of Dhangars in OBC list or potential inclusion, is causing a rift.
Okay, so it's time for us to show you the Jharkhand C-voter data. But for a moment before that, I want to go across to Sanju Verma, national spokesperson of the BJP, who now joins us. Sanju ji, welcome. What are your internal polls telling you from Jharkhand and from Maharashtra? Are you, chewing at your nails, or do you think this is going to be a Maha victory?
Rahul, if you know anything about me, I'm the last person to be twiddling my thumbs or chewing my nails. But be that as it may, I can just tell you that our internal surveys are saying we are romping home to victory, a thumping victory in both Maharashtra and Jharkhand. And, you can hold me accountable to it on the 23rd of November. Let's be very clear, this entire narrative of BJP is trying to polarize the Jharkhandis with that Hindu-Muslim narrative. I heard Rajdeep make a mention of it. I will just share some very interesting data with you, which I have obviously, fact-checked. This is undivided Bihar, because we all know Jharkhand became a state only recently in 2000. It's a 24-year-old or a 24-year young state. Undivided Bihar, 1951, tribal population 46.8%. Come 2011, that fell to 28.1%. In the meanwhile, look at the numbers. The Muslim population in undivided Bihar, including Jharkhand, was just 9.44% in 1951. That saw a dramatic rise to 22.73%. But the story does not stop here. For all those people saying, oh, BJP ke Amit Shah, Narendra Modi, Hindu-Muslim karte hain. Ji nahi, Hindu-Muslim hum nahi kar rahe. These are the demographic shifts that have taken place in the last couple of years. The Santhalis, the most important tribal group in Jharkhand, their percentage in undivided Bihar, including Jharkhand, was 44.67%. Their population today is down to 25.12%. So let's face it, has there been a demographic jihad which has been unfavorable to the tribal population? Yes. Has there been a growth in the Muslim population but not entirely organic? Yes. Because when the Muslim population rises from 9.4 to 22.73%, it has happened due to massive inorganic growth, which is due to the influx of Rohingyas, Bangladeshi infiltrators, and I will not shy away from saying Ghuspetiyas. So yes,
are you justifying, Sanju Verma, there was an advertisement, I just want to ask you, there was an advertisement on social media, which eventually the Election Commission asked you to take down, saying it was completely violative of the code of conduct, virtually suggesting that Muslims are taking over land, are taking over jobs of Jharkhandis. Are you suggesting on this program that ad was justified?
I am simply saying this to you, Rajdeep. Today is not a day to discuss ads. Today is a day to
It
discuss
is your
numbers.
party's ad
And
which was struck down. I'm asking you, do you
can I
justify
please
it or
finish?
not? Are you telling me an ad which was
Can I
brazenly
finish?
unconstitutional
Can I finish?
is acceptable to you?
Can I finish? Can I? Rajdeep Sardesai, I always tell you, you are not the panelist, you are the anchor. शांत हो जाओ.
I'm asking you a question.
शांत हो जाओ. Don't get so rattled. Don't get so rattled. अभी तो आपके पेट में और दर्द होगा 23 नवंबर को. अभी तो शुरुआत हुई है. शांत हो जाइए. Now let me finish. Because I'm not going to have you put a gun to my head. I will speak what I want to speak. The limiting point is this. I always say that what is wrong in बटेंगे तो कटेंगे. अरे भाई विंस्टन चर्चिल से लेकर एब्राहम लिंकन से लेकर अंबिका चरण माजुमदार way back in the Lucknow session of Congress in 1916 सबने कहा united we stand, divided we fall. अभी उसी को हमने हिंदी का रूपांतरण करके कहा बटेंगे तो कटेंगे, एक है तो सेफ है. Entire ecosystem के पेट में दर्द होने लगा. I will just end by saying one thing. Do you remember the date 15th November? For decades together, nobody remembered Bhagwan Birsa Munda. Modi ji ne bola, every year 15th November will be celebrated as the Gaurav Janjatiya Divas in the honor of Birsa Munda. Do you know that 3,956 villages are being nurtured by the Modi government via the Adarsh Adivasi Gram Yojana in Jharkhand? Do you know that 38 lakh families have benefited via PM Ujjwala Yojana in Jharkhand alone? Do you know that 8 lakh women benefited from the Matru Vandana Yojana for lactating mothers in Jharkhand alone? Do you know that 89 Ekalavya residential schools for the benefit of tribal young girls?
This is campaign material. We've been through it. Let's come to the polling data. I want to show you the C voter data. Remember, as I said, the caveat is this is not an India Today poll. We're showing you the C voter data, and I'll show you some of the other polling data as well. So this is for the first time now, coming up on your screen, the C voter data for Jharkhand. I'll take you through the methodology adopted by Yashwant Deshmukh and his team at C voter. This poll was done between the 13th and the 20th. So it's largely a pre-poll with vetting and re-polling happening on the day of counting. So it happened during the first phase and then through the week and then also today. It has a sample size of 15,823. They've covered all the 14 Lok Sabha constituencies and 81 assembly segments. And this is a face-to-face poll. It's not a catty telephonic poll. Now, let me take you through the vote share projections by C voter for Jharkhand. The C voter Jharkhand poll suggests that you got a very tight fight, but in that tight fight, they're showing the NDA ahead. 42% vote for the NDA, 39% for the India Alliance, 19% for the others. The 3% vote share is within the margin of error, but a lead, if one is to be called, is in favor of the NDA and 39% for the India Alliance. Let's now convert this into seats and show you for the first time what the next Jharkhand Assembly, according to C voter, could potentially look like. They're predicting 34 seats for the NDA, 26 for the India Alliance. And if you're wondering why this isn't adding up, because what C voter has done this time is they've picked the seats which seem clear and have given the leads for those seats, which in this case is about 60, 61. And in the other seats, which leaves about 20 seats, they're calling it TC, too close to call, where in the poll, frankly, if the gap between the party that's shown in front and the one that's coming runner-up is just about 3%, it's on that small sample, frankly, not possible to extrapolate it, and therefore, rather than be proven wrong, they're being careful. But in the seats, the 61 seats that they could call, the NDA at 34, India Alliance at 26, others at 1. The other 20, they're saying, are basically too close to call. Sanjay Kumar, let me put you on the spot. You and your team have also been at CSTS doing your own polling. Try and give us a broad sense of what your pollsters picked up on the ground.
We will do some polls tomorrow because today the Jharkhand poll has taken, like the second phase of Jharkhand election concluded. But I think the data which we have collected so far, I get a sense more or less on the similar lines that NDA has a lead. It is a tight election, but certainly NDA has a lead, but it's not a big lead. It is more or less similar, 2.5%, 3%, 4% lead. So in the range of 2 to 4% votes. As you know, that we don't make any estimate of the seats because we don't go seat by seat. We have a very small sample of about 3,000, but that's more or less on the similar lines that NDA has a lead in a tight election.
You know, I think one of the things that we've seen in small states is that when there's a tight contest, it's advantage BJP. We've seen it generally. Himachal was an exception. But by and large, the BJP's ability to do the last mile, getting people through their Shakti Kendras, through their so-called Panna Pramukhs, as they call them, I think is able to give them that advantage, plus make it multipolar. We saw it in Haryana, put up 8, 9 independent candidates, cut the anti-BJP vote. In Jharkhand, because Hemant Soren is in power, that might be a little bit more difficult to cut the sort of, the anti-incumbency against him, if it's against Hemant Soren. How does the NDA then position itself to cut that vote of Hemant Soren? In Maharashtra, they're doing it very effectively. In every constituency in Maharashtra, there are 2 independents, 2 rebels, all of which smaller parties cut the sort of anti-Mahayuti vote. In Jharkhand, Rahul, smaller state, I don't know how easy it is, but the BJP has practiced it to an art form.
Okay.
The ability
so
to
what we
win
can do is, here's
states.
how Jharkhand looks like at this moment. You've got 34 in the poll clear leads for the NDA. You've got 26 for the India Alliance. You've got 20 seats which are too close to call. So what I'll do is, I'll try and run our simulation once again and see what could potentially happen. So 34 versus 26. So let me just put that on the top. Let's see if we can get our fancy piece of equipment to work. 36 is what is given, and 20. Or was it 34? Just one second. 34, right? So you got 34 versus 26. So you got 34 and 26. We'll start again. 34 and 26, which basically means now you've got 20 seats which are too close to call, and that then the final outcome will be dependent on how these 20 seats roll. If those 20 seats roll in favor of the NDA, it doesn't all happen this way. The distribution can never be so complete, but potentially they could go up to 54 seats according to the same C-voter data. On the other side, if a large majority of the 20 seats, and again, all the seats will never go one way, that's probabilistically highly unlikely, but if they do, then the India Alliance could go up to 46. So you've got a situation, Sanjay Kumar, where the India Alliance can form the government, the NDA can form the government, but the chances of the NDA forming the government are higher than the chances of the India Alliance forming the government in Jharkhand.
No, absolutely. Because even if the C-voter poll has not made any estimate about the 20 seats, which we are discussing at the moment, but even among the seats which they have made an estimate, NDA has a clear edge, 34 versus 26. So it's a 8-seat gap between the 2 alliances. And in all probability, as you have already mentioned, Rahul, all the 20 seats can't go to one side. At the best, I would say maybe 50-50 on one side, 50% on the other side.
So we can run that. So if you're saying, let's imagine it goes 50-50. So you've got 34 and 10 on this side. You've got 26 and 10 on the other. So this becomes 36 and that becomes 44.
So I agree with you that the probability of NDA forming the government is much higher compared to the probability of JMM Alliance forming the government after the votes are counted on 23rd.
How do you read these numbers? Tell me and I'll pull it in.
Yeah, 2 factors here.
Yes.
One is on the 20 seats, the Jairam Mahato factor is a big factor in Jharkhand.
Explain the JKLM and why this is important.
So the JKLM or the JLKM is a young leader who has taken the youth by imagination.
Particularly the Kurmi
vote. Now the Kurmi vote is the vote of AJSU, which is a partner of NDA. The splitting of votes when JLKM contested independently in 2024 Lok Sabha election, they damaged the prospect of JMM-led alliance in 3 seats because they split the anti-NDA vote. Now they could split the anti-JMM vote because they are contesting on a lot of seats, and this Kurmi vote is very crucial in South Chotanagpur and even the Kolham
So they could
region.
damage the NDA, you're saying?
They could get a portion of the anti-incumbency votes, and he could be a kingmaker in a hung assembly situation. We cannot rule that out. And one more factor is that if Ladli Bahan scheme will work in Maharashtra,
it has to
work in Jharkhand, where the extent of poverty is much higher, where almost all the districts of Jharkhand are amongst the 250
So what would this number board look like for you? You've got 34 at the top and 26 for the India Alliance. Amitabh Tiwari.
See, in Jharkhand, even if we just add the vote shares of BJP, AJSU and JVM. We are forgetting JVM. Babulal Marandi's party merged with BJP. They had got 6% vote share. So even if you just do a simple math and AJSU and JVM are able to transfer their votes, despite some of the damage caused by Jairam Mahato, I think the NDA is in a slender lead there.
Slender lead.
Yeah, so out of 20, we can say 7 to 8 going to, around 40% going to
NDA.
NDA. So around 8 seats you can add.
So
I mean,
if
as
8
per
go,
my
then
analysis,
42.
Yeah.
So that's
slender lead there they have, because there is a bitter insider versus outsider battle going on in Jharkhand. Very bitter. I think somebody mentioned the outsiders want to have the control of the power now back in their hands. They don't want the Adivasis to rule the state. That's a very bitter battle going on.
That's what I was telling. Yeah. I've spent many years in Jharkhand. I've studied in Jharkhand, and and I have many friends in Jharkhand. The view is very, very strong. Anti-Adivasi, the outsiders.
No, but if there's an anti-Adivasi vote, then in the areas of Santhal Pargana, there's likely going to be an Adivasi consolidation as well in favor of the India alliance.
So of the 28 ST seats, which BJP won only 2, they are not going to significantly improve their situation. But if you see the North Chota Nagpur belt, wherein the 25 seats are there without any single ST reserved seat, is where there was a split of seats. Even the Congress did very well.
Can I
So it's again
Congress
coming down to
16
like
seats.
Maharashtra. You see, the direct fights between BJP and Congress, both in Maharashtra and Jharkhand, could well decide the fate of both these states.
And in Chota
there are those
Nagpur.
75 seats in Maharashtra, mainly Vidarbha and Marathwada, that could well decide the final map. And similarly in Jharkhand.
One commonality between Maharashtra and Jharkhand is that in both the state, Congress seems to be performing very badly.
Yeah, you see, that's the thing.
Sheila Ben wants to
But
come in.
no, I think Raghuvar Das, non-tribal chief minister, BJP's many leaders have accepted that it was a mistake. Please. It's on record also in many interviews. So,
No, also it's sentiment.
Khattar,
it's
Fadnavis
also-
here, who was a non-Maratha, Khattar, who was a non-Jat, and non-tribal in Jharkhand, all three.
But there's a
came-
difference.
No,
Can
ma'am,
I
there
point
is a
out the difference?
between BJP
No.
putting up a
So what
tribal
you are
CM
saying-
and a tribal CM of an India bloc.
But there's a difference. The difference is Jats and Marathas are dominant castes. Tribals are the non-dominant. Like, for example, they're the people perceived as being poor and therefore very quick for emotion and sympathy to get attached the moment it seems as if the outsiders, as Sanjay Kumar was saying, are trying to rule. Let's look at how the gender vote gets split in Jharkhand. If I were to take you through the breakup of, just to try and pick up a sense of whether the Mayam Yojana is actually working in Jharkhand or not, let's take our viewers through what the gender breakup is, and then we'll also go region by region and give you a sense of which of the alliances have tracked well in which part of the state. We're giving you the C voter data for Jharkhand, and I'll start with the region-wise vote share first. Let's start with the region-wise vote share from C voter for Jharkhand. Here it is on your screen right now. C voter projects that in Chota Nagpur, there's a 2% gap in favor of the NDA. In the Kolhan belt, where the NDA had done poorly last time, thanks to the addition of Champai Soren, and because you've now got a stronger NDA, the gap is down to just 1%. It's in favor of the India alliance, but the gap now down just to 1%. In the Kolanchal belt, the Koila belt, the coal belt of Jharkhand, you've got a 3% lead in favor of the NDA, but this is also where the others have done the best. 27% of the vote for the others. In Palamu, 48% for the NDA, 36% for the India alliance, and 8% gap in favor of the NDA in Palamu. In the Santhal Pargana belt, 39% of the vote for the NDA, 45% for the India alliance, suggesting a 6% positive vote in favor of the India alliance, largely because this is the tribal belt of the state, so largely on the back of tribal consolidation. So you've got two regions. This shows you how close Jharkhand really is according to the polling data. In Santhal and in Kolhan, you've got the India alliance in front. In Chota Nagpur, in Kolanchal and in Palamu, you've got the NDA in front. The net figure is 42% overall in favor of the NDA, 39% in favor of the India alliance, a 3% vote share gap in favor of the NDA, but remember 3% is also in the margin of error, so this is a tight fight. It's not a clean sweep according to the C voter data. This is how it converts into seats. What you've got over here are Let me just explain what we're doing. We've got 61 clear seats, which they've called. 61 clear seats. They've called 34 for the NDA, 26 for the India Alliance. They're saying 20 seats are marginal seats. We've also given you where these 20 seats are coming from. And you've got the breakup over here of each of the regions of Jharkhand. Let's look at the gender-wise breakup of...
So the marginal seats,
Yes.
the marginal seats if you see, Santhal Pargana, Kolhan is 7 out of 20. That's 30%. That's the ST belt where BJP did fairly badly in 2019. And Chota Nagpur are 8 marginal seats. These will be likely to be largely Congress versus BJP battles without any Adivasi significant population.
Let's look at the gender-wise breakup of Jharkhand to give you a sense of how the genders have looked at this election, whether there's a big change. Now, interestingly, this data by C-Voters suggests there isn't much of a change. 39-39 for the India Alliance in both male and female voters, 41 for the NDA in female voters and 44 among male voters. Sanjay Kumar, is your data similar, or were you seeing a bigger lead for the NDA, for the India Alliance amongst female voters?
As I mentioned earlier, we are yet to complete our post-poll survey, and we don't get into these so many details even before the results are announced. I think that's a big mistake these pollsters have started making during last 5-7 years, that you present your pre-poll or the exit poll or the estimate as if these are the results. I would try to restrain from getting into all these analysis at this moment.
I think everyone has got so many statutory warnings now in 2024, which is good.
We have never done that.
Yeah, but
never in the last 20 years.
Yeah, but the fact is that...
Wait for the results to announce and then come up with all this discussion.
Sure, but you know, you could get vote share wrong as well.
Yes.
I mean, let's be very clear.
Yes.
I mean, you know, you could get vote share badly wrong, and you have also, like many have in the past. So I think in Indian elections, frankly, are becoming more and more complex. And I think
why just Indian elections? Even American elections, which pollster got it right?
No, but you see, look at America.
And there are only 2 candidates over there for all.
Now that's interesting. But look at America, 50 states. At the end of the day, it was all boiling down to the so-called 7 or 8 swing states, as you call them. In India, there are 7. In Maharashtra alone, there are 6 regions, each of which you don't know.
No, but even American elections are difficult. Fareed Zakaria gave me an interesting example. So the 7 swing states went for Trump. Out of the 7 swing states, the Senate seats, 6 went for the Republicans. Only Pennsylvania went. So basically, polling is complex. Elections are complex. Therefore, just sit back and go through.
No, Rahul, I still maintain India is far more complex than the United States.
Absolutely.
You know, there is no comparison between the two. I mean, look at it. As I said, Mumbai's voting patterns will be different to Thane, you're going to find, which is just on the outskirts of Mumbai. Go further down from Thane into Bhiwandi, you will find Bhiwandi voting very differently to Thane. You move further into Konkan, you will find a different pattern. In North Maharashtra, Nandurbar's voting patterns and Dhule's voting patterns could well be different from the rest of Maharashtra. I'll give you a good example of why this is such a nightmare. In Dhule, for example, Lok Sabha seat was won by the Congress, right? The Congress won that seat. But out of the 6 assembly segments, 5 were actually the BJP held the lead. In Malegaon, with a large Muslim population, that's where the Congress won enough to actually win the seat. How do I then extrapolate based on the fact that the Congress got this Dhule seat that they will do well?
They won't. In the other 5 seats,
so there's
the
a good chance for the NDA to make up. So I'm saying, you know, even those, that's why I think the MVA should have got its act together in July itself on Maharashtra. If they thought that Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha are the same, they are badly mistaken. In India, Lok Sabha, Vidhan Sabha widely vary. We've seen it here in Delhi.
But this...
Arvind Kejriwal gets blanked out in Lok Sabha. He may well win the Delhi Assembly.
The Congress made the same mistake after, towards the end of last year, before Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. They wanted to see them win in Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh and said, now when we negotiate with our allies, we will do better. That never happened, and the same mistake here also. They thought they'll do well in Haryana and then negotiate.
Rajdeep, in America, did Obama work against Kamala Harris openly? In India, within Maharashtra Vikas Aghadi, all 3 are fighting within and outside.
And so is Mahayuti.
And also Mahayuti. That's what
so is Mahayuti. Look at butting into Kadege. Immediately Ajit Pawar says, I don't accept this slogan.
But you speak of the Mahavikas Aghadi not getting their act together. But there is somebody who did get their act together in Maharashtra, which didn't quite happen during Lok Sabha, and that's the RSS. I'll give you an example which is quite stark.
Sure.
I was at Seva Gram in Wardha. right? So Sevagram is where Gandhi post 1942 had built his base there. So there's a whole Gandhian culture around Sevagram in Wardha. The minute I step out into the village, I quietly see a row of RSS workers going and enlisting names जिनके अभी तक नाम नहीं आपका अगर नहीं आया है लाडकी बहन योजना में हम कराएंगे अभी कितने फॉर्म भरे नहीं भरे मुझे दीजिए मैं भरता हूँ बैठ के. All of that was actually taking place, which we didn't quite see during the Maharashtra elections in Lok Sabha. So the RSS is quietly doing its job, especially in Vidarbha.
I know, I'm following some of the...
And no poll will be able to assess all
You
these
can't,
voters
yeah, you don't know what's going on.
And that's
Amita-
80,000 voters per seat, the Ladki Behan beneficiaries, on an average.
But, but on
And
the...
remember, there are 5,000, there are nearly 5,000 candidates in Maharashtra for 288 seats. So that's an average of 20. Let's... they were originally 40, then they got whittled down, so they're about 5,000 now. Let's assume that 10 of them are not serious, or even 12. That still is 8 candidates. That's quite a lot. I mean, how does any pollster plot? What will an independent pick up? What will a rebel? What will BBA pick up?
Rajat Sethi's just showed
it's a
up
nightmare.
fashionably late. Rajat, welcome. It's good to have you with us.
Well,
what are your internal polls telling you? What are you picking up from Maharashtra and from Jharkhand?
I think if I were to summarize, since we're not giving the numbers, essentially the India bloc did not put in 100%, either in Jharkhand nor in Maharashtra. Especially when you had such a solid head start in a state like Maharashtra. For 2-3 months, they did nothing. So close to the elections while they were still fighting for the seats, they never lifted the campaign. If Rajdeep, in all his reports and filings, was consistently maintaining that it was a very, very hyper-local election, it is MVA's fault. It is not the UT's fault. UT always wanted it to be a very, very local election.
Absolutely right.
It was Aghadi who could have made it a wave election against the anti-incumbency, and there were enough ingredients to actually put together those building blocks and build a massive wave against the Shinde government. It was an absolutely disastrous campaign. Look at the basic things that they used to do during the Lok Sabha elections also. They had these guarantee cards, Congress party. It was completely absent, either in Jharkhand also, I didn't see anywhere. I did not see those guarantee cards anywhere in Maharashtra. So I believe some of the skills that they had picked up to actually go out and knock every single door. With some kind of scheme, some kind of khatakat benefits, etc. Nothing.
Let's take a look at who the preferred choice for Chief Minister is in Jharkhand. And in a while from now, we'll show you what all the other polls are saying. So you don't need to flip here and there. We'll just bring it all together for you and give you a sense of what the other pollsters are saying. So here is a breakup of the preferred Chief Ministerial choice for Jharkhand. Let's have the different candidates and the kind of vote shares they picked up in the C-voter data. Coming up on your screen now, Hemant Soren at 29, Babulal Marandi, and I can't understand why, who doesn't get projected, at 24, Champai Soren at 6. You add the two, they're at 30, but Hemant Soren at 29, Babulal Marandi coming in very close at 24. And since you've studied over there, Sanjay Kumar, wouldn't they have been better off had they projected Babulal Marandi clearly, or is it because he left and therefore they're not sure? Like, what's the reason?
So I think BJP is very clear that they know it is not important to project someone as the chief ministerial candidate in order to win election. That's not the guarantee. In many states, they have went ahead. Look at the state of Madhya Pradesh recently. They did not project even their incumbent, the sitting chief minister, as the chief ministerial candidate. So they have this one way of contesting election, not to project someone and then go ahead with a united party. And I think that may be the strategy in Jharkhand as well.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think, within the BJP, there have been a lot of divisions. There were a lot of camps. No matter what you say, Raghuvar Das still, tried to peddle in some influence in the Jharkhand politics as much as he could. So projecting one leader as a decisive CM face would have backfired. It would have also backfired in the non-tribal sort of unity that BJP was looking at. And I believe that it was a solid strategy to keep the focus on chipping away some tribal votes using your insider-outsider and infiltration sort of agenda, and keep your non-tribal base as intact, as solid as possible, because for 5 years they've had it enough. Whatever you face in Ranchi and in the nearby areas, everywhere they were like, there has been too much of pacifying attitude of the Soren government only towards the tribals. It seemed like the government was only running for the tribals. That sentiment was kicking in. And I believe BJP didn't want to disturb that sentiment, so that it coalesces all the non-tribal vote together and chips away some tribal vote based on that Bangladeshi rhetoric that they were able to consistently push throughout the election.
It's like keeping the outsiders guessing that they will have their chief ministers. In the end, BJP could still install a Adivasi chief minister. But if they had gone with an Adivasi name, the outsiders' polarization would not have happened to that extent.
It will be a surprise. I think in Maharashtra and Jharkhand, the most important story that who will be the chief minister and why and from which party and which background and which caste.
Tuhin Sinha from the Bharatiya Janata Party joins us. Tuhin, we're looking at the polling data put out by different agencies. We're doing scenario mapping. Do you want to tell us what you're picking up from within the BJP war room in terms of how confident you are about the end outcome in Jharkhand and in Maharashtra?
Well, good evening, Rahul. Good evening, everybody. We are looking forward to a comfortable win in both the places. First to come to Jharkhand, I have spent a good 9 to 10 days in 2 installments in Jharkhand in the last 1 month, and I can tell you that the kind of anti-incumbency vote which one is witnessing in Jharkhand is one of the strongest in recent years. So, it's a tragedy that in the last 24 years, none of the parties had managed to win even 45 out of 81 seats. So traditionally, it has been a close contest, and that is one of the reasons why I would think the pollsters are being very safe over here. But I would imagine BJP winning something in the vicinity of 50 seats at this point today. And there are reasons, the war against illegal migrants is not confined to the Santhal Parganas region alone. It has percolated down to every part of Jharkhand, which includes Kolhan, which includes cities like Ranchi and Jamshedpur. It was a very active issue on the ground. When it comes to Maharashtra, again, we had a very layered campaign. We focused on many different things, the social welfare schemes. We focused on the ideological issues, Ek Hai To Safe Hai. We focused on the $1 trillion economy target, which we have set for Maharashtra. As against that, the Agadi was obsessed with only Muslim reservation, the ulema, the All India, Muslim personal law board, and I think all that has created a very visible fault line. The BJP, the Mahayuti, is way ahead of the Agadi than one would imagine. So even in Maharashtra, one is looking at 160 plus seats at this point of time.
Okay, we'll slip into a quick break. When we come back, we'll look at what all the polls are saying for Maharashtra and why some of the pollsters, Rajdeep, are saying, "Kal batayenge, aaj nahi batayenge."
No, I'll tell you what it is. One of the more interesting things that's coming on, some channels are doing stringer polls, the Marathi channels.
Yeah.
The stringer
so we
polls,
do a stringer
the
poll
stringer
as well.
polls are all predicting hung. And the stringer polls are all predicting a tight contest. The pollsters most of them are giving the Yuti the advantage, with one exception. Who's giving the Mahavikas Agadi the advantage. But it's the stringer polls, and we've seen in recent times, stringers particularly tend to be often better than pollsters.
And sometimes
pollsters
no.
may not
ऐसा नहीं है, that's not
No,
true.
Rajdeep,
There
sometimes
are
they're too
been
close to
evidence.
the bone. Too close to the bone to see the macro.
No, I'm giving only in the past 12 months, I've seen some polls done by stringers. Organizations have said, we won't go to pollsters, we'll go to our reporters. And they've got both Lok Sabha, some of them even came as close to Haryana. They were, at least they said, they only gave the Congress 45 to 50. Most pollsters gave 60 plus. So I'm not saying don't rule out the stringers also. The fact is Maharashtra is a seat by seat battle in my view. Unless Ladki Bahin has spread. If Ladki Bahin has spread, Mahayuti will sweep this election.
Do you
and
think
then
this
we don't know
entire
the upper
election,
end of that.
Rajdeep,
These are the two possibilities that I
Are
see
you
in Maharashtra.
actually seeing the entire election actually hangs on the peg hold of Ladki Bahin?
In my view, just as the MVA, and I think I agree with Rajat, the MVA didn't have a clear narrative. The only narrative that the Shinde government really was holding on to was Ladki Bahin.
And you need
that
to
was the
have
only
just
thing.
one agenda to win an election.
Yeah, so they had this one agenda and they pressed it, they hit it, they gave the delivery to women. I think the one problem they had is Mehengai came at the wrong time.
Did you see
the
it?
cooking oil price came at the wrong time and soya bean. These are the two issues they didn't address, and that may make it a little closer. I've always said Mahayuti advantage. Ever since I traveled through Maharashtra, I felt Mahayuti as the advantage. If there is any change, it could be a seat-by-seat fight, which becomes hung. These are the two scenarios I see.
But see, you were doing a comparison with Trump and what happened there. See, Trump also realized that, just this boogie of democracy is in danger, those kind of things, constitution isn't, this doesn't work. And, look at the agenda set by the BJP. If it was ek hai, whatever agenda was set, they kept on replying to that agenda. Where were Sharad Pawar's long marches of the farmers, which he was known for, to mass mobilize farmers on the ground? He never did that.
And they had the opposition jump on that agenda as well.